Hello, my friend. Welcome back to our channel. I am so excited you are here, and I am so excited about the video that I am doing today, which is how to make your ClickUp look like Asana. Now that might sound kind of funny because you might be like, well, I'm downloading ClickUp to dive into ClickUp. Why would I want it to look like another project management tool? But what I have seen so much in the past is that people are starting to outgrow Asana, or there are some features in ClickUp that they really love, like docs or dashboards or whiteboard or whatever it may be. But when they dive into using ClickUp, they get super overwhelmed and they quit. They're like, nope, I can't do it. I'm gonna stick to familiar and simple. So I want to be able to provide with you how to start your ClickUp looking like Asana so it's simple, and then as you get more comfortable using it, then you can venture into those really awesome features that you've been seeing and hearing about. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make your ClickUp look like your Asana. I have this very simple ClickUp system space that is a freebie that you may have downloaded that you can go ahead and poke around in. I'm going to explain the entire template and how to actually create these things while going through some basic ClickUp tips and hierarchy so that you can really understand how you can simplify ClickUp. Even though there are so many views, so many different features, we want to start simple so you don't get overwhelmed and then abandon it. Okay, so just going through, I want to click through the different things here to show you what's going on in this template and in this simple ClickUp space, and then we'll go through how to actually build these things out. Even if you have this for yourself to go ahead and customize, it's still good to know how we got here so then you can recreate the same thing in the future. Okay, so in Asana, let's just do a quick breakdown, which if you are an Asana user, you already know this stuff, but just going through it again. So we have this here, DaSilva Life is called a team. You may have many different teams here. I'm on the free plan, so I can't have all the different options that you may have. But essentially, you can have different teams and underneath different projects, which are these different types of lists and these checklists, to-do lists, right? So essentially, ClickUp, the teams would be replaced by spaces. So this is a space. And then the projects underneath, this is where we would add lists. So you can always add a new list here, but another cool thing about this is you can actually break it down in folders as well. So the folders would categorize the list. We didn't use any folders in this specific template and tutorial, but know that you can create different spaces and then group them into folders and then lists. For example, in my personal ClickUp, I have a whole entire client space. Within the client space, I have folders for ClickUp builds, Honeybook builds, and other types of things. And then in those folders, say for ClickUp builds, we have a project list for every single individual client. So it just gives you that opportunity to break it down and organize it a little bit further. Okay, so that's just showing you, here we have teams and projects. Here we have a space and lists. You can also have folders and then lists as well. So a lot of times people sign up for ClickUp and they will create a space and they will name it. So let's just say this is Christy's space. And then we'll choose a color, make it public. Some people will say, ooh, look, maybe I want to have all of these different statuses or to-do and progress, things like that. I always recommend, unless you specifically know exactly what that space is going to be used for, I always recommend starting off with the most basic, being to do and complete. I'm a big fan of always starting simple and then adding on as you go, so you're not being flooded with a bunch of digital clutter of statuses and views and things that you don't need. So I would go ahead, just do to do and complete. Then I always turn off all ClickUps, then back on, because these really aren't going to actually show up, but instead, if you're trying to use one of these things in the future and it's restricting you or you can't find it, then that's because the Click app probably is not turned on. So I always go ahead and turn all of those on. And then here is where people usually make a decision here that may not be the best, which is turning all of these views on. Which let me show you actually what that looks like if I do. And then I'm going to show you my recommendation. So if I click review space and then create, you're going to see when I create this new Christy space, I have all of these at the top. Now, the amazing thing about ClickUp is having the ability to have all these views. The downside is you really do not need nearly all of them for each and every type of list. It really depends on the list that you're trying to build out. So what I actually go ahead and recommend is when you're going into your spaces, in the default settings, that you actually only start with a list view, because you can add on these different views as you go. So I'm going to change that to list. You'll now see when I press save, it feels so much better. It's just one list view. I can add anything I want later on. Okay, so going into the basic checklist. So this is where if you just want a digital checklist to make sure you are staying on top of your tasks, or if you have team members that they are staying on top of their tasks as well, you can just create a basic checklist. If you're creating a list with the settings that I just showed you, you're then gonna have, it's just gonna be to do complete. It's gonna show up with assignee, due date, and priority, just like this. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. And you'll see this when I set it to close. So say I did a test task and I closed it off, it's then just gonna disappear. I can always find it in my closed as well, but it's just like a piece of paper, but it's digital. So I assigned myself and I put due dates on these things as well. These are actually going to be recurring. That way they can be showing up on my calendar every day. And then priority. So you can choose to have priority or not, just if you want to say, hey, Christy, actually, it's pretty high priority that you check your emails every single day. So now where am I getting these different columns? Well, we have this add column button here. These are custom fields, which we'll get into in a second, but these again are more advanced. So maybe if you're just starting out with a swap and you're downloading the simple ClickUp system, you don't want to actually use custom fields yet, except for one thing I'm going to show you. Because we want to start simple. We want to get used to ClickUp. But in the show/hide, this is where this will pull in standard columns where you can choose to bring things on the outside of the task. So I'm going to click, so you can see the status. If I clicked this, it would mark it as complete. It would set the due date as tomorrow. So this is actually gonna, when I refresh it, you'll see it sets as tomorrow. And then it is actually going to go back to do. But if you have multiple statuses, you can pull that drop down. I'll show you that in the business to do. I'm gonna go ahead and hide this because I really don't need it with a checklist. I only have closed, it's either done or it's not done. So that is a basic checklist. Again, you can choose to hide these priorities, you can choose or hide these columns, bring them back up again, but these are always gonna be things that you can find in the inside of the task. So if I go into this one, you'll see I have this high priority here. I have the due date, assignee. So you don't have to have it on the outside, but I always recommend having assignee, due date, maybe priority, maybe comments if it's something where you're collaborating with team members. But again, here's a basic checklist. Next, we have a simple status list. So this is, say you want to have a list that has 3 statuses, to do, in progress, complete, maybe even a few more statuses in there. I wanted to show you how that works. So in Asana, this is where you have everything is grouped by the section, and then it has these check boxes. Well, in ClickUp, it's actually naturally gonna group by the status. So that's why in here you see everything is grouped by to do, and here everything is grouped by to do, in progress, or complete, because I chose to see complete. Now you'll notice something here as well, is this here turned into a box, whereas this turned into a checklist. I get this question often, where did my check marks go? Well, you're only gonna see check marks if there are 2 statuses, to do or complete. And then the other ones will have boxes because you can see you can drag this task between to do, in progress, or complete. So that's why it goes from a checklist to a box. Same thing here, we have assignee, we don't have priority, and we also have start and due date. So I actually put that column here from the show/hide start date. So you can see you can also put start dates on these things, and you'll see what happens when we go into calendar view as well. So pretty simple here. You can see to do, in progress, complete. You can choose to hide, closed. And one other thing I want to show you is, let me show this. When you naturally start this, the statuses are actually going to be reversed. It's going to have the first status on the bottom and the last one on the top. Well, you can easily change this by just clicking that status again, and then it shows up from top to bottom. Okay, now one other thing in this simple status list I want to show you, which is going to be similar to business to do, but a little tweak in there, is I added a board view in here. So I just clicked add board. You can name this view whatever you want, or you could keep it board view. And then I clicked add view. So now this is showing up in board view where I can actually drag each thing into its own status. So you'll see I moved this YouTube SEO, it then changed in this list. So depending on how you like to look at stuff, whether it's list or board view, you can add those at the top. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting a board view on the basic checklist because what you're gonna see is there's just gonna be two of them, two boards, to do and complete. So it doesn't really make sense in that aspect, but I'll show you something cool in business to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. So that is the simple status list. Now let's move on to business to do. Okay, so this is where we really get fancy with the sections, like Asana. Okay, so how are we grouping these different checklist categories into these categories? Well, how this list started was, let me show you. If I add this list, it just started like this. I don't even see any different categories. I don't know how to group it. Well, this is where we start getting into custom field dropdowns. Let me go ahead. You can see I could toggle between these two different lists. It's the same exact information. It's just filtering it in a different way. You can always pin these to see them side by side at the top. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this one, and then I can unpin this. Okay, so I had a basic checklist, and what I did was I added a drop down. I called it category, and then I started adding these different ones, admin, finance, etc. And I added these different colors as well. Well, this actually turned into a drop down, which will always, if you have a custom field added to the list, it's always going to show up at the bottom, show/hide, and it's also going to show up in the task right here. So I could always switch it either in the task itself or if I'm showing the column on the right-hand side. So I went through, I created this drop down. You can always add and edit these options here as well, especially if you're editing this template. And then I went ahead and instead of grouping by the custom field category, instead of grouping by status, I grouped by the custom field category. So let me show you this. It started like this. I added the categories, and then I grouped by the custom field category. So now this brought this into these really nice sections. We have the assignee, due date, and the status here as well. And then the category. So because I have them grouped here, I decided to go ahead and hide this column, and then they're just nicely grouped. So another thing I wanted to mention here was so this is checklist, right? This looks just like Asana, except we have some pretty colors for the different sections. We have the assignee, we have the due date. If you wanted to add tags, you can add it here and then add the tag, and it would show on the outside of the task. But if you wanted to add more statuses, you can go into the list settings, list statuses, custom, and then we can move this to do, in progress, complete. And I wanted to show you something. If I have this task, this is why I added the status column here, because then if you have more than one, you can say, okay, this is an admin task, but it's in progress. This is a finance task and it's in progress. So in the template, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this as a checklist, but I just wanted to show you that option. But if you just have it as a checklist, you could go ahead, hide this column, and then you just have assignee, due date, and it's grouped by the category. Then one other thing I wanted to show you in here is a note about custom fields. So when I take this category here, if you went and you wanted to say, add this to the simple status list, you can go ahead and click add column, use field from library, search for category, and then pull that up in this list. So I have a bunch of different categories, and I don't know if I'd be able to find the exact one I want to use right now. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Use this field. Perfect. Okay, we found it. So now if I went ahead and I changed anything in here, because I'm like, I want to use this drop down, I want to note, if you change anything in this one, it's going to change the custom field in this one as well. So watch when I do this. If I click simple admin, save. Well, now I go to business and this is simple admin. So what I suggest, if you want to create a fully new dropdown, you can either do new column dropdown and create it from scratch, or you can go ahead and duplicate this and then call it, let's say, business category. And then you know that they're different. You can go ahead and edit this one and it will never change the one in here. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm going to delete this just from the list. I'm gonna go ahead in simple status, I'm gonna delete this one just from the list, so now the custom field is not in there anymore. And I'm gonna go ahead and move this back to just being admin. So I just wanted to make that note. If you do edit a custom field and it's in more than one place, it's going to change that custom field everywhere that it is. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and hide this. Remember, you can always see this on the inside of here and change it in there as well. Okay, so now you saw this in list view. Now another cool thing is, yes, we only have 2 statuses right now to do and complete, but if you check out this board view, we now have these different categories, just like we would in Asana in the board view. Because what we did in the ClickUp version was we went and grouped by the custom field category. So grouping and filtering are super powerful to view the information how you want to see it in ClickUp. So here, if I went and grouped it by status, you'll see I'm only gonna have to do incomplete. But if I group it by the custom field category, it's gonna bring up all these nice categories. I could bring it from one thing to the other, and it's going to be changing in real time on the list view. So again, you can see how you wanna view your information. Also know, as we're going through this, you have to have list view on everything. You can't just have a board view. I know like in Trello you can, but in ClickUp you have to have both list and board view. So that is the business to do, where we're grouping it by different categories, seeing it in board view. Again, if you maybe don't want business categories yet and you just want a simple checklist, start from there. That could be your business to-do list. And then in personal to-do, this is where we have just a basic checklist: buy groceries, organize closet, buy Jeff B-Day gift. They're all assigned to me with due dates and priorities. And the reason I want to show you this was because let's pull it all together. You might be like, okay, but how do I see everything? When I go into Asana, I could see home, I could see my tasks in a calendar or list view or things like that. See where you can see month view and things would show up here. Well, that's where you can do the same thing in ClickUp. So we have the simple ClickUp system here. We have the space. On the space level, I added a couple different views. So you'll see if I add something on the space view, it's not necessarily gonna show in each list view. So you're gonna do that on an individual level, or you can also do this on the everything level as well. So if you have multiple spaces, I recommend using the everything level to create these views. So we have here on the everything level, a team calendar. On this team calendar, we're showing, now this is going to be in the template already set up, but you're showing subtasks in case you're assigned to subtasks. This I'm showing assignee, priority, and tags. Now something here that you can choose to do is you can show future recurring tasks. I personally don't like this because I think it can get a little cluttery. Some people want to see it because they want to know what's coming up down the pipeline. So what you would see is if I checked off this, which I'll actually show you, let me turn this off now. If I check respond to IGDMs, it's going to go off of today and then on to tomorrow. And then one other thing you can choose, I mean, you could mess around with all of these and see what you want to see, but you can also see where this is coming from. So the actual location. So this is coming from business to do. This is basic checklist, personal to do. So that way you can stay organized and see where these things are coming from. I'm actually going to keep this on in the template so you can see that you have this option. And then we're showing assignees. So you can see, okay, Jeff is going to do these 2 things on Friday. Christy is in charge of the other things. And why is this long one showing up is because we have a start and due date on these 2 things. So, on this task, we have both a start and a due date. So as you can see, I can also check on my calendar, click into these tasks and mark them complete without even ever having to go into that list itself, which is really great. I love calendar view on the everything level. That is one of my favorite things. I created it on the space level for you to have just as an example because this is the template. I can't create an everything view template. But this is really, really great for making sure you're seeing everything within your space. Again, if you use multiple spaces, I recommend creating this on the everything view level. So we just created a calendar view. We then pinned it. I renamed it team calendar. I put on these different filters and what I wanted to see on it. Then we have Christy's cal, which is very similar. The only difference is we're filtering out that the assignee is me, and for Jeff's, we're filtering out that the assignee is Jeff. So again, you'll see that these now don't have the folder name, but if I wanted to show them, I could turn on location. So that is absolutely preference. All these things showing on calendar view are preference. And then one more thing, this week you're able to see this is grouped by, instead of status or custom field, it's actually grouped by the due date and has a filter that the due date is this week. So now I'm seeing what's on the task list for each day coming up, who's responsible, what's the priority, and what is the status of this task. So that is the walkthrough of the simple ClickUp system. I actually ended up walking through every single one of these, so I don't need to show you how to create them from scratch. Essentially, you would create the space like I showed you, turning on all ClickUps, just list view, basic statuses. So each list starts like this. Then just going through basic checklist is going to be exactly the same how this is. Assignee, due date, and priority. You would just click starting to put tasks in there. We then have the simple status list. This is a basic checklist. And now here I am going through it, and I spelled status wrong. I'm actually going to go through it because now I'm like, you know what? I love wrapping up. I was a math teacher and I know that that is super important. So let's do it. Okay, status. Okay, so here we actually had a task. We have the statuses, list settings, list status. I'm gonna go through this one a little bit quicker. Did custom, and then I always like in progress being yellow. I took off priority. I added start date. I dragged this here, so we have assignee, start date, due date, and added a board view. Right? That's simple status list. Perfect. Business to do, we have list, board, assignee due date status. So let's do business. Okay, let's just add a couple different tasks so you can see. We had assignee due date, we have status, and then we created that drop down. So I'm going to do example drop down here, but you would just do category, admin and finance and legal. Let's just do a couple. Added some colors. You then choose which ones for which. I'm going to go ahead and hide that drop down. Group by the custom field, example drop down. Add a board view. And again, group by the custom field, example drop down. So you can see how I created that super quick, but that is the process of going through. Oh, and you'll see this is actually a good learning moment. I did not press autosave. So then when I went back, it just reverted back. So you always want to make sure you click autosave when that pops up at the bottom. So next time you go back, that view looks exactly the same. And then the personal to do, that one was honestly just a basic checklist as well, where we had assignee due date and priority. So that was the super fast version of creating those. And then the views at the top, again, I just added some views, created those filters, the grouping, and then set those items to show on the calendar as well. But just wanted to go through quickly, showing you the raw how to build these things from scratch. But you will have everything in a simple ClickUp system if you want to download it for free today. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Super excited for you to see how we really can make ClickUp simple. And then as you start getting more used to the features and used to the platform as a whole, you can start expanding into new areas. How's that for making the jump from Asana to ClickUp? Does it make it seem a little less scary? I really hope. If this video helped you switch from Asana to ClickUp faster and with less stress, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Also, make sure to give it a thumbs up so other people who are trying to make this switch but they're really not sure how also get to view this video. So great news here. We have actually created a super simple ClickUp template that is available to you for free as a new freebie that shows exactly what was in the video. You can plug right into your ClickUp. This way, it really kickstarts your journey. You can use this on the free plan of ClickUp, so you don't have to spend any dollar investment just to dive in and start trying to get used to it. So grab that in the description below. Make sure to like this video if it was helpful for you and subscribe to our channel if you want to know more about ClickUp systems and organization. We have a ton of free resources for you on our channel and on our website. So with that, I hope this was helpful and thanks for watching.